Well, my name is Damian Spaulding. I've worn many hats in my time, ranging from a multi-award winning educator, producer, engineer, photographer, videographer, musician, record label owner, production director. On the other sides of things, software developer, systems architect, business consultant, and strategist, entrepreneur. But most importantly, for the purpose of this video, I've developed the Spaulding method of learning that's loved and respected by so many. I started the Spaulding method because I too am a student that almost fell between the cracks myself, and I never wanted another student to do the same. The victories that I had in learning music, because that's the very first thing that gave me my first victories in life, was life-changing for me. And I wanted to offer the same abilities for others. My brain works differently than many, but at the same time not too different from most. So therefore, how I taught myself, because I'm self-taught in everything that I do, so I thought how I taught myself should be able to apply for a broader audience. And instead of doing music or any form of learning in a typical regurgitated form, we redesigned things to have the education model wrap around the student's mind rather than the student's mind wrapping around the education model. And while doing so, built great successes, won many awards, and had many students kind of have major breakthroughs in their life. And I'm so glad to be part of their journey and look forward to doing that a lot more in the near future. And that's why we're establishing and have established this school that everyone now so much loves. The Spaulding method first started with music. I'm a musician. I taught myself guitar when I was a teenager. I locked myself in my room for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, I was playing guitar. At the end of 60 days, I was on stage in front of a few hundred people. And I don't think that's because I'm some crazy musical genius. I think there's some interesting ways on the way my brain works, but I've taught many other students how to do exactly the same. And from the guitar process, I developed the piano process, and it just went on, drums and other musical things. And from there, gained awards, did lots of cool stuff, and then developed into drama and production and many other things. I find that many educators parrot the way they've been taught. They don't really understand why they teach the way they teach and aren't able to customize the learning process around the student or to the student because they're just taught to go through the knowledge learning process like they learned it. So that's one major difference the Spaulding method does provide. We wrap again the message around the mind of the student, whether the student be a kinesthetic learner, an auditory learner, visual learner, and there's so many ways we can adapt the learning model. Take that course material and adapt it to the student, and while doing so, build new confidences in the student and build new just knowledge and understanding, not just knowledge for sake of memorization, but true knowledge, true understanding of the material at hand. That way they can customize it and work through it and win awards themselves and just succeed in the ways in which they want to succeed in their life. Empower the student to have great successes. The Spaulding method was first built as a new standard to learn music by ear because there was no standard of learning by ear. There's standards for learning through boredom, sheet, and that kind of stuff. And to compose jazz or other forms of music just did not exist. So there's lots of different disconnected parts and individuals do different things. So what I decided to make 20 years ago, a standard of learning that could be leveraged worldwide. While doing so and building new successes, that standard was then applied to drama and dance and cuisine, and it just went on, literature. And we found great successes in doing so. And as a result of that, we decided to start the kindergarten to grade 12 process. We're starting with select grades and then going forward from there. As you know, just about everything I've been doing has been self-taught, but I also have a traditional education background on what you would not necessarily expect. I was trained to be a massage therapist. So therefore, all of the, traditionally 20 years ago, when there was a plethora of information needed to be memorized in a short period of time. Osteology, histology, cytology, neurology, splancology, all those ologies are in my head. And with that came neurology and how the brain works, how the brain functions, and how we gather the different gyruses and how we bring things together and bring that knowledge together. And I leverage that knowledge of the brain to make a method that wraps around the brain. And that's how I do what I do and how we do what we do. So we teach the teachers teaching the Spaulding method, both the neuroscience and the medical sides of things, as well as the course content at hand and how to adapt that to the mind of many others. One of the ways the Spaulding method is different from the present education system is that it seems as though the present education system is built for square pegs to fit in square holes. And if you're a round peg or circular peg or any other form of peg, you just won't fit. I didn't fit in the traditional way. I was told I was stupid. I'd never amount to anything in my traditional education process, even though years later I learned after going through the medical training, everything, that my brain was actually, my mind was operating well above where the majority of the class would be. But because in general, for example, the brain works 10 times faster than the spoken languages. So most kids are sitting there bored in class listening to Charlie Brown's teacher going wah, 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 because their brain is just spinning so much faster than what the material is at hand. We often need distractions to help keep us entertained. So me, I was constantly distracted. I could always be doing better if I only applied myself. And I'm sure you've heard that a lot on report cards. And there's so many kids that almost fall between the cracks because of this. I am determined to not call any kid stupid or slow, or we all have our unique strengths and weaknesses. You know, we have our IQ, which is well celebrated in the education process. We also have an EQ, our emotional quotient, our PQ, our physical quotient. I'll even argue we have an SQ, which is our spiritual quotient. We have so many people that can do the square root of pi, but can't maintain a marriage, for example, because their EQ has never been developed. At the Spaulding method, we try to turnkey the learning process for the whole student. We believe it's up to the students to build their own religious beliefs and whatever is required for them personally. We're not a politically based model where we teach different theories of politics and gender and other things that are far less important than what we understand as the math, science, how to balance a checkbook and how to cook for yourself and how to succeed at the directions you want to educate yourself in. And so we really focus upon those things, and we really adapt, again, learning to that mind and make sure that the whole student now is leveraged rather than saying that this is the way it always has been done and it must be learned exactly this way. So that's how, one of the many ways that the Spaulding method is different from most. An example of the Spaulding method in action, for example, let's take a look at trigonometry. So you got sine, cosine, tan, all that kind of stuff. We did it when as kids, or hopefully we all did it as kids, because I'm using this as an example. But as our school goes, if we were going to teach that kind of journey, what we do, first thing we do is we take the classroom, ideally, if the weather permits and time permits, to a field. And we'd launch a bottle rocket in the air and watch that arc. And we'd say, okay, well, that's a sine wave. That's half of a sine wave. And that's a button in your calculator. Now let's go back into this place. Let's go back into the school and then sort out now how this applies to real world, because we learn far better when we're solving a problem. We learn far better when we are project based. For example, you know, I might tell you what an alternator is and a water pump is and a catalytic converter is and just list all the parts of a car. But if there's no relevant thing to hang it on to, then it becomes just useless knowledge, right? Whereas if your car broke down at the side of the road, you're stranded for an hour and a half, then the tow truck comes up and says, oh yeah, your alternator overcharged your battery and buckled it. It's like, oh, hey, what does an alternator do? And then you'll know for the rest of your life what an alternator is. So yes, by moving through the project sides of things and working together, even in projects, for example, the visual learners and auditory learners, as we discussed earlier, and kinesthetic learners, these kids come together in a room, kids being from 4 to 74. So we all come together in the real world in a project, for example. Little Susie would be with her little book saying to Jimmy as he's working on the nozzle for the vector thrust on a rocket, saying, my calculations indicate that nozzle might blow up in your face. Whereas Timmy's going to be bashing on things saying, no, I reinforce it with this little joint over here. And that's how we work in the real world, and that's how the classroom should work at the same time. When you take a look at classrooms of old, they were these one-room classrooms with one teacher across many grades. And you ask yourself, how does a teacher do it? Well, what's really interesting is that the teacher, one, would have the older kids help school the younger kids, because honestly, the best way to learn is by teaching anyway. And from there, in the real life process of it, the kids got a deeper understanding as they taught it, rather than just learn it to regurgitate it for a test the next week and then move on to the next subject at hand. We get all these individuals in the same room and we cross-train one another. We leverage each other's skills and expertise. And then what would happen is a visual learner will help teach the auditory learner. The auditory will help the kinesthetic and so on. And we all just dovetail our learning process together, and we learn and grow through our material together. It's very collaborative. It's not not sit in a chair, raise your hand when you have a question, and we tell you if you're right and wrong. But at the same time, there are finite truths in this world. There is right and wrong. So we'll definitely say, all right, this is a framework of math and how mathematics has to go 1 + 1 equals. And there's no other sum other than 2. But that's the process that we walk through. It's kind of exciting making all this happen and watching the lives change as a result of this. And we're glad to be a part of it with you. Little side note that I'd like to share with you. There is an exam, I love it if you can take. If you can try to pass an 8th grade test from about 1900, you will see, I'll see if I can provide some links somewhere, somehow, for you to do this. It's wild what is in those tests. You know, one question was, for example, your grandfather has a farm and he just purchased it. He has 30% down. It's 100%. It's a $100,000 farm. Can you figure out an amortization of that mortgage for 30 years and show your work? You know, most mortgage brokers today can't do that without a calculator. I can't do that right now because I haven't done that math on a regular basis. We have the historical record of how to teach incredible work that somehow we've managed to toss over the last number of years and replace it with often models that just don't even make sense to parents. So we're getting back to basics. At the same time, we're embedding a lot of artistic expression into the education model. People ask, well, how are you going to have time to teach all the artistry when the kids are spending all year in class? And one thing that I often say is, you take a look at a high school student. A high school student needs to pick up a course in the middle of summer. They can do an entire credit in a month and a half. Why, if you can do an entire credit in a month and a half, do you take 6 months almost in the school year to do that regularly? Once you trim the bulk out of the whole learning process and remove the things, how can I put this? There are certain sciences that has nothing to do with general education, for example. It seems to be more religious or politically based science that tends to be taught to our kids that we can excise from. There's no requirement to have that, to leave us room to do the other things like self-expression and team collaboration and nurturing our personal developments, getting through conflict resolution and other really cool things that can be taught to the kids that really have relevance in life. You know, and so the process is, yes, we pull together and we trim some of the fat that doesn't need to be there. We do definitely hold to what's required by the Ministry of Education and what needs to be taught. But then in the excess time that we have, we then teach all the other really cool things that the student can gain so much from, whether it be drama or writing, literature, or music, dance, or even high sciences and like software design and project management. We walk through it all. We're starting the process from a homeschool environment before we move into the registered school. So therefore, the first students will be gaining their expertise in a homeschool method. And we might maintain, or more than likely maintain that method throughout the entire scalability of the process. The classrooms will always be small. And then as we grow, we just grow the teachers as we go. Okay, that's the picture. And also, even in this homeschool kind of process, you have, there's grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Instead of having these streamlined grades or really linear grades that the grade 1s don't talk to grade 2s and the grade 2s don't talk to grade 3s and the grade 3s pick on the grade 1s. We'll have instead forms where, for example, Form 1, grade 1 and 2 and 3 are combined and again the kids can cross-teach one another. Grade 4, 5, 6 are combined and they can then cross-train one another. Grade 7, 8, 9 is combined. Grade 10, 11, 12 is combined as we walk through this process. So again, you develop that naturally cross-training process through the whole thing. Aside from critical thinking and how important that is in the Spaulding method, remember how I said that my brain works differently than many? I'd love to give you a quick example of that. And this actually will make sense to a lot of you that might have struggled even in math before. So, for example, 3 plus 5, how I do that in my head. We know how we're taught, 3 plus 5 equals, and you write that out. Actually, before I get into how my brain does it, if you take a look at how those numbers are written, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the shapes of those numbers are actually designed to have angles in them that illustrates the enumeration that you're doing. I'll put something up that gives you an idea of what that looks like. 1 has 1 angle in it, 2 has 2 angles in it. Or what I say, count the dots, and I'll teach this to you in another time. But my brain does math off geometry and color. Figure that one out. So 3 plus 5 is a hexagon. pentagon. 5 is a pentagon, so I'm visualizing in my head now. And then 3 is a triangle, right? And a pentagon plus a triangle, that's 3 plus 5 sides, 5, 6, 7, that's 8. Or if it's 3 plus 4, it's a square plus a triangle. So I take one line from that triangle, I add it to the square, which makes a pentagon, which gives me a little L beside of it. And therefore, that's 2, that's 5 plus 2, that's 7. Things like that. That's just one quick example of mathematics brought in a different way. Or when I get close to a round number, the color of it changes. There's so many, our brains are so unique, and science is just barely scraping the surface on how it all works. And by leveraging, some students actually think in color, some think in shape. It's not all just what is written on a blackboard that's important. And through that, again, we understand how the student's mind works. That's the first thing we do. Understand what's behind the mind of the student, adult or child, and then figure out the learning process, how to best give the information to work in color, in geometry, spatial acuity, the whole 9 yards. The subjects taught in the Spaulding School of the Arts is everything. Everything ranging from math, science, history, technology, music, drama, critical thinking, life studies, the whole 9 yards. And the reason why we say everything, remember how the old classroom was, the whole can you pass an exam from the 1900s, where you had that one teacher across many things, many disciplines. Through the process of building Spaulding School of the Arts, there are a number of professionals that came to me and said, I am a retired architect and I would like to teach kids how to do structural design. I am a retired business professional who's made many, many millions of dollars and managed many, many hundreds of millions in their life and would love to teach kids how to manage business the same way I did. You don't need to have a teacher that knows everything as a demagogue of knowledge saying this is the right, this is the wrong, and this is what the textbook says. When you have individuals that really know the game better than anyone else, nurturing the development of your child or of the student. So yes, grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all of them, 10, 11, 12, all the disciplines will be covered and will be taught not only by the teacher in the classroom and cross-trained with students within the classroom, but also will be brought professionals that would like to make themselves available for the learning process as well, whether that be professional musicians and professional architects and so on and so forth. But remember that one school classroom, that one room class design that I was telling about, where one teacher has the many, many grades across? That's carried across through the entire Spaulding model as well. To get started, we're starting from the homeschool model and then growing into a registered school. So therefore, we need 5 students to move into a registered school. We're just getting established now, finally releasing to the public all this work that's spent so many years building. And as we do this, we have these kids are coming together, and we plan to always keep grade 1, 2, and 3 as a form together. Grade 4, 5, 6 as a group together. 7, 8, 9 as a group together. 10, 11, 12 as a group together. That way the grade 3s can help the grade 2s, and grade 2s can help the grade 1s, rather than the old school model where you have all your grade 1s together, all your grade 2s together, and the grade 2s pick on the grade 1s, and then you have all grade 3s together and they look down at the grade. No. It all kind of comes together, very much like how the real world works. You're in a business, there's a 30-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 50-year-old all working together. We need to work synergistically, and that's how we build our projects, and that's how we build the learning process. Can I indulge myself and share with you just a little mini story of something that happened to me that helped give me umption to do a little bit of what I do? Well, a couple stories maybe. But the first one is, I remember when I was in grade 4, we had a grade 4-5 split class. And what happened was I was sitting there in math, and I was never a good math student because math I never liked. I was too bored out of my gourd, and he could only be doing better if only he applied himself. And I sat in this classroom one time, and the teacher, I thought today, instead of watching the clock tick down like it's counting the seconds of my life bleeding away, I'm going to actually really apply myself. So I actually learned the grade 4 material and the grade 5 material. I don't remember exactly what it was, addition, divisions, I don't remember what multiplication charts, I don't remember what it was. But nonetheless, at the end of this class, I learned both grade 4 and grade 5. And then at the end of the class, you're supposed to have 15 minutes to do 25 questions for your grade. Now, because it was a split class, it was grade 4 and grade 5. So I now gave myself 50 questions to answer in what everyone else was supposed to take 15 minutes to do, right, for do 25. So anyway, so I went through and I worked as fast as I can. And for once now, the seconds were going on that clock, and I'm racing to try to get it done as best I can. And I got through my 25, my grade. I got through the 25, the grade ahead of me. And then I was really hurrying at the very end, but I got it done just before the buzzer. Next day I show up to class and I say, here, teach, here's my homework. And she looked at it. She's like, oh my goodness, Damian, you're only supposed to do 25 questions. It's like, yeah, I know, but I wanted to do both grades. And so she looks it over and she looks that I did the first 25 of my grade perfectly. And then she looks at the second 25, and in my hurry at the end, question number would be 48. I think it was 48 or 49, the second last or third from the last. I made a slight error. I forgot a little mini digit, and I got that wrong. And because I got that wrong in the grade that was higher than me, I did not get my gold star that you're supposed to get when you get perfect, even though I got perfect for my grade. And of course, because I didn't get my gold star, I asked myself, why do I apply myself? Why do I even try? Because I got my grade perfectly and I got the next grade next near perfectly. There's no celebration for that. I think we need to celebrate our children. We need to celebrate our students. We need to give them new victories and give them new strengths and equip them with rewards, real world, for their successes. And that was failed by me and failed by many. If you do not fit the boxing exactly the way you're designed to be fit, the way the design of the box is made, then it's terrible. So there's been a number of parents that have now come to me saying, my child doesn't fit in the traditional school system. Do you have room for them? Absolutely. Others say that my child learns differently. Absolutely. Others say that they're having troubles with bullying and acceptance at their school and would like some help. Would my school help in that process? And because I understand that artistic kids are far more accepting than often non-artistic kids. And absolutely. There's so many reasons why the Spaulding Method is so loved and why the school is so successful. And I think that is a big part of it. The fact that we lead through caring, we lead through respect, and we love our kids. We love the education process. We love what we do, and we do the best that we can to change lives in all the right ways. I think that's what makes the school what the school is and what keeps winning us awards every year. The truth is about grades, in the real world, there are no grades. There's achievements, there's successes, there's awards, but not really grades. So yes, we can build grades, and we do build grades when required. But the truth is, if you're going to learn a musical instrument, your success of that instrument will be after you perform it for 100 people or 1,000 people. If it is videography, it'll be after you produce your video and you get that reviewed and you win some awards, that kind of thing. Because that's how the real world works, and we do our best to educate the world for the real world, our students for the real world. But yes, there are grades. Also, instead of though cramming for grades like we do, because you know this, when you cram for a class and you cram for a grade, you get your passing mark, but do you really retain any of the information that you crammed after you crammed for it? No, and there's neuroscience why that is. The brain can only learn 7 things in an hour, and from there to move it from short-term to long-term memory, there's a whole process, and we can get into that another time. But when it comes down to it, the Spaulding Method, as we provide grades, we more so examine on retention and knowledge. For example, if we taught you a grade 1 class, and then taught you the grade 2 unit, and then even taught you a grade 3 unit, and examined you on the grade 1 unit, don't you think you'd get perfect? So in the same process, we're going to walk through things. You will get grades, and quite frankly, you'll probably do better than the traditional methods, the school systems, because we're not cramming for the test. We're building knowledge for the time. That's the picture, and we're equipping the student as best we can. Spaulding School of the Arts is a for-profit corporation, not because we're necessarily out to make $1 bajillion, but we find it's much easier and much more successful to build a corporation with a unified direction rather than try to juggle a board of directors that's a not-for-profit trying to hold things together. So because of that, Spaulding School of the Arts will always be for-profit, and Spaulding Method will be under that process. In the same way, Coca-Cola, for example, they have a formula, a very unique formula they never patented, but they kept it under non-disclosure. That way they can keep that standard and keep it in-house and keep doing the excellence that they like. Love or hate the soft drink, it's up to you. But that's the process that we're nurturing. And then from there, we work with not-for-profits to sponsor children in the process and sponsor adults through the education model. So money should not be an an issue. If you have a desire to learn, if you have a desire to grow, if you have a desire to collaborate and really work together with a team of individuals that love what they do and a group of students that want to learn differently, then we are here for you. Give us a shout. Yes, we are accepting teachers. We're looking for teachers for our school, from grade school teachers to high school teachers, to help the process go. The school has been brought to us to start by Andrea Angel. She's a gifted individual, legally gifted from when she's a child, and she came to me wanting to build a gifted program for kids. And from that gifted process, she's built our curriculum for grade 4, 5, and 6. And at the same time, we'll be teaching our grade 4, 5, and 6 classes to start, and then we'll grow out from there. So if you have a child of, let me know, any age, let me know. If you're an adult of any age who would like to learn, let me know, and we'll build a model that wraps around you to the best of our ability. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. The Spaulding School of the Arts has two different approaches. We have the a la carte learning process that happens after school hours. And then we have our day school programs, which is a high saturation program for the kids during the daytime. So if you would like to replace your entire grade school education with the Spaulding Method, we are here for you. If you'd like to experience just music, just drama, just production, like you're seeing the production around us, then let us know at the same time, and we will build something for you. That's how we are, and that's who we are, and this is where we are, both online and face-to-face. We're building international training modules now for teachers worldwide, and we look forward to delivering those very, very soon as well. If you'd like to become part of the teaching team, let us know. We'll see you soon.
Spaulding School of Arts.
Be creative.